Good morning, everybody. Just seeing some people filtering in. Okay, great to see so many of you here. Okay, we're going to get started. So welcome everybody to today's session on increasing employee engagement with your sustainable commuting strategy. My name is Charlotte Albert and I'm a senior manager here at Mobility Ways, and I'll be hosting the webinar today. The webinar today is a product-focused session with a spotlight on and an introduction to our newest behaviour change tools, CommuteJournal and CommuteBoost. You'll be hearing a bit more from me in a moment with an overview of Mobility Ways and an introduction to the tools we're focusing on. We'll then be hearing from Paul Brooks, Associate Director of Estates and Facilities at Queen Elizabeth Hospitals King's Lynn, NHS Foundation Trust, about some of the challenges they are facing and why they're working with Mobility Ways. This will be followed by my colleague Rick, who will be taking us through more of an in-depth product demonstration. We'll then be finishing off with a Q&A. So a little bit of housekeeping. So the session is being recorded. So you'll be sent a recording of the session after the session today. We'll also be doing a Q&A at the end, as you've just heard. So please do pop your questions in the box for us. There is the chat feature as well. So if you've got any comments, you can put those in there. But if you want a question answered, please make sure that you are putting it in the Q&A. Next slide, please, Jackson. So a little bit about Mobility Ways. What's our purpose and mission, and why do organisations work with us? So we're on a mission to make zero carbon commuting a reality. The commute makes up 5% of all carbon emissions in the UK, which is equivalent to 18 billion tonnes a year. Climate change is an emergency. So incrementally making our way to net zero as organisations and further net zero commuting is fundamental. But it's much more than commuting reduction targets that organisations face as challenges. For many organisations we work with, parking demand at site massively outstrips supply, even though so many people could commute alternative to driving alone to site, but don't. For example, for NHS trusts, amongst many other things, this can mean patients are driving away and missing appointments, costing the NHS millions of pounds a year. For some manufacturing and logistics organisations, for example, this can mean reducing or taking out production shifts, reducing outputs of the business significantly. And for some organisations, colleagues are parking on local roads, causing roadblocks and congestion, with not only the parking, but the traffic caused in local areas at peak times, causing massive problems in the community. All of this activity is also contributing to poorer air quality, which is one of the greatest environmental risks to public health in the UK and is associated with an estimated 29,000 to 43,000 deaths a year. These challenges are mainly driven, excuse the pun, by one key factor: individuals driving alone to work. Shifting the dial requires people, in this case, your employees, to change their behaviour day to day and commute differently, whether that be by sharing a car, using public transport, cycling or walking. Now, this is not a simple task, as we know. Underpinning all of this is the reality that it's really difficult to engage employees in a meaningful way. Next slide, please, Jackson. The Mobility Ways platform is built on the different key facets to support your organisation to elicit that needed behaviour change to reach your objectives, whatever they are. For commuting behaviour change to occur, there are a few essential components that need to be at play that require both you as an employer and your employees to be brought in. We follow an agile approach here at Mobility Ways called measure, reduce and report. The measure is where you as an employer need to be brought in to understand the scale of your challenge. How are employees currently commuting and why? What are the barriers to change? What are the gaps and opportunities in the commuting infrastructure your colleagues have to get to site? And what can you do to improve this? We support organisations with the tools, both with software and our expert consultancy, to answer these questions. This then informs the data-led strategy, which leads us into reduce. These are your plans for change, introducing new infrastructure, policies and incentives and communications plans that you've identified via the data are going to make that all needed impact. This is where the real employee engagement gets underway. Although, of course, there is an element of engagement needed with employees to understand the commute in the first place, but we'll come on to more of that in a moment. In order to execute your strategy, this is where the Mobility Ways app comes into force, the employee gateway to zero carbon commuting, if you will. We then come on to report. All of this activity, from travel survey and infrastructure data in our measure phase to the real-time commuting data from your colleagues day-to-day, is fed back into a dashboard. So you can measure the effectiveness of your policies and interventions and track your progress against your objectives in real time. Today, we'll be focusing on the features that are baked into the employee-facing proposition, which is the Mobility Ways app. Next slide, please. To summarise, the Mobility Ways app is a multimodal commute, logging and rewards platform where individuals can log walking, cycling, public transport and car sharing journeys, participate in sustainable commuting challenges and redeem a range of rewards, prizes and perks that you as an employer put together with our expert guidance to incentivise sustainable commuting behaviour. They can find a car share match with a colleague, validate shared journeys, access designated parking, and learn about their personal sustainable commuting options. The Lift Share for Work module is where colleagues can find a car share match and validate their shared journeys to access designated car parking. Personalised travel plans are where employees can view their personal commuting options to get to site, including your Lift Share scheme, for example, and facilities and other bespoke schemes available to them. Today, our focus is on CommuteJournal and CommuteBoost, new tools that are modules that sit within the app. If you're an existing client that's on the webinar today who has a Lift Share for Work scheme product, you'll have either already switched over to the new app or be in the process of moving over. Please speak to your account manager if you'd like any more information about the app. The module for users that sits in the back end to log commuting activity is called CommuteJournal. They'll be incentivised to do so via challenges and incentives. Oh, next slide, please, Jackson. And incentives you put in place within the app. Now, the important bit for you as an employer is that all data from individual commutes recorded in CommuteJournal is anonymously fed into the Mobility Ways commute activity dashboard and displayed to you as real-time cumulative journey and modal shift data. The strategic advantages of real-time data on how your colleagues are commuting are numerous. For example, you're an NHS trust looking to reduce single occupancy vehicles to site. Firstly, parking demand massively outstrips capacity, so much so that patients are turning up and driving away, costing your trust millions in missed appointments a year. Air quality around the site is the worst it's ever been, and you have a commuting carbon reduction target to hit by 2030. So you've worked with us to understand that you need to look at a new park and ride infrastructure, fresh cycling infrastructure, alongside a comms plan. You've spent £1.5 million doing this. The data that CommuteJournal gives you can enable you to understand the real-time impact of those investments and interventions on modal shift and behaviour change, allowing you to be more agile in your approach to strategy. Therefore, maximising those investments and efforts to reach your objectives. This is particularly pertinent for organisations who are ever nearing 2030 and 2035 modal shift and carbon reduction targets. Having data on progress from a travel survey that happens annually just isn't enough when things need to change and fast. Furthermore, understanding seasonal changes, patterns of behaviour in more intricate detail can support you to continue to be more strategic in how to shift behaviours. We'll hear more from this from Paul Jackson at Queen Elizabeth Hospital's King's Lynn in a few moments. Next slide, please. But of course, what is in it for your employees? One of the challenges we see time and time again with commuting behaviour change is that actually engaging employees can be really hard to do. Therefore, we knew it was essential to create something that was going to get colleagues bought into your sustainable commuting strategy by making it relevant to them and giving them a bit of what they want. The employee-facing part of this proposition is called CommuteBoost. Employees will be able to view and select the challenges they want to participate in, track their progress against challenge criteria, and once eligible, redeem those all-important rewards. Challenges and rewards are completely customizable. We're on hand to advise on what incentives we know have worked in our 25 years of experience changing behaviour with employees. But of course, you are the expert in what incentivizes your workforce, whether that's free lunches, hot drinks, merchandise, charity donations, the list is endless. A well-rounded commuting reward scheme will not only support engagement and buy-in from your colleagues, but also boost your employee benefits proposition, driving recruitment and retention. So to summarise, whatever your objectives, whether that's reducing parking demand, improving air quality, reaching your net zero goals, it requires people, in that case, your employees, to be engaged and to change their behaviour. I like to think of CommuteBoost and CommuteJournal as your strategic tools to get there faster and smarter. I'm now going to pass over to Paul Brooks from Queen Elizabeth Hospital, who's going to tell us about why they've embarked on a journey with Mobility Ways and the benefits they're enjoying from using CommuteJournal and CommuteBoost.
Hello, my name is Paul Brooks. I'm the Director of Estates and Facilities at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, King's Lynn. I've been asked today to talk to you about the benefits that we're seeing from using CommuteJournal and CommuteBoost within the project we've got going off at the moment. Not only on site are we edging towards building a new hospital, which all of the data that I'll talk about in a second will be really key as we make sure that planning is the best it can be, but we're also one of Iraq hospitals, one of 7 in the country. So there's a lot of construction going off in this site all the time. And we have to remain open, we have to remain agile and available to the public as an open district general hospital. What CommuteJournal and CommuteBoost have brought to us is that real world data that we were craving. We knew a lot about where people were coming from just from what we know from staff records, but we didn't know the frequency, we didn't know how often, we didn't know what was shifts, type of vehicle they were coming in, and what other methods of travel that they might consider. What CommuteJournal has done and CommuteBoost joined together has given us a platform that we can ask those questions and that we can see that real world data. What it will give us is year-round trends. It'll inform us around when people are doing travel in the summer, how they're travelling in the winter, but also those bits that we don't know, those changes in circumstances. But if we can see that trends and the travel data changing, it makes us plan better. We know that our strategy moving towards to newer hospital will be a type of strategy that has to look at net zero carbon. And we also know that will mean that we've got to try and be smarter at the way we advertise travel to people. It can't all be a car coming to site in the future. It has to be thought about what our public transport rates are like, how we can make access into the hospital better. What CommuteJournal and CommuteBoost are doing for us now is taking that data, looking at how those trends are working and making what we do and the decisions we're going to make more agile in the future. We know that we'll have an enhanced car sharing scheme. This again will cut down on our single occupancies various to site. And once we get those variations into play, other people start to come on board. You can't do that if you don't have correct data, if you don't have data that will stand up to scrutiny of people that are involved in it. And what we've seen so far is real evidence that that data will help us influence not only the people travelling to site, but commercial bus companies as well as local authorities in their strive to help us make a greener place for transport to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. I know that Mobility Ways wider work will get us to where we need to be for our improved strategy for the new Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and I'm really confident in the next couple of years as we move through that, this type of data and information will make us make smarter decisions.
Great to hear from Paul there about the importance of that data and how it's supporting them. Can I just remind everybody, if you do have any questions, please do pop them in the Q&A box below. There might be a few more questions though after my colleague Rick is now going to take us through an actual product demo. So over to you, Rick.
Welcome everyone. I'm Rick Vistano, a Senior Product Manager here at Mobility Ways. And today I'll be giving you a run through of our 2 sustainable commuting products, CommuteBoost and CommuteJournal. So just a quick recap from what Charlotte's gone over already. We have CommuteBoost, which allows you to create tailored challenges around various commuting modes to encourage behaviour change within your employees. And CommuteJournal, which allows you to gather commute data in a privacy-first manner from your employees to contribute towards CommuteBoost challenges and to give you accurate emissions reporting. So I'm going to start by showing you how to set up a CommuteBoost challenge, and then we'll take a look at the experience for the employee in the app itself. And then finally, I'll show you the commute activity dashboard. So the screen you're looking at here is the CommuteBoost challenge area within the within the Mobility Ways dashboard. I've had to block out the names because this is an actual client's dashboard of CommuteBoost challenges they are currently running. So as you can see at the top there, they have 3 pilot challenges that they ran just to see how it works and just to test it out with a smaller group of people. And then now they're running some longer challenges around walking, cycling, and carpooling. So from this screen, you can click in the top right to create a new challenge. So the first screen you come to is where you enter the details for the challenge. So obviously you can enter the name and an image, but most importantly on this page, you can enter which modes you want the challenge to be for. So you have the choice of walking, cycling, carpooling, bus, or train. So you could just have one mode per challenge, or you could have multiple modes per challenge. So for example, you could have walk and cycle both ticked for an active travel challenge. Next, you can enter a description for the challenge and then a start and end date. So for this example, we're going to do a walking to work challenge in February. And finally, you can enter a little challenge one-liner, which the employee will see in the app, and it sort of gives them an idea of what the challenge is about. So on the next screen, you can enter the qualification details. So this is what the employee needs to do with their commute for their journey to qualify towards the challenge. So initially, you need to enter the number of journeys required. So in the example we have, it's walk to work 10 times to get a free lunch. So you would enter 10 journeys. But you might also have a challenge where maybe you want people to car share to work to get a free cup of coffee. So in that case, if you want to incentivize them every single time they do a car share journey, you just enter one journey. One journey is all that's required. Next, you can enter the minimum distance for the journey to be. So you might want it to be over a certain distance away from your work location. And you could also enter a time window for the journey to be in to qualify. So if you have shift workers, you might want to set a challenge which incentivizes shift workers in the morning. And then you might want to have a separate challenge with a separate incentive to incentivize shift workers in the evening. So you've got real flexibility there. You can also limit the number of entrants to the challenge if you want to make it more exclusive, and you can enter the participation rules so the employee can read once they get into once they look at the challenge itself. Next, you set up the boost details. So the boost is the reward or the incentive. So you can add an image, a name, a little description. And then importantly, you can say when should the boost be issued. So should it be issued immediately on the person meeting all of the criteria for the challenge, or should it be at the end of the challenge? So for example, if it was walk to work 10 times to get a free lunch, and in February, you might want them on the 10th time they've walked to work for them to immediately get their boost in their app so they can go to the canteen and get their free lunch. Or if you were offering maybe some merchandise and you wanted to send it out all out in one go, it might be that you instead have the boost issued at the end of the challenge. You can also say what type of redemption method you would like within the app. So we have 2 options, which is a manual swipe or a code. So a manual swipe could be for a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, something where the employee will take they will go to the canteen and show the person at the point of sale that they've got a boost, and then that could be swiped off to redeem it. Or if it's a piece of merchandise or maybe some time off, something not a physical object maybe, the employee can get a code within their boost, which then they can send to the challenge administrator to then deliver the incentive. You could also say how many boosts there are. So it might be an unlimited number of boosts within a period, or it might be that you only have 10, and this is a really exclusive challenge, and the first 10 people to qualify get the 10 boosts. So again, you've got flexibility there. And then also you can say how many times an employee could partake in a challenge. So in the walk to work 10 times in February to get a free lunch challenge, you might only want them to participate in that once. So they walk to walk 10 times, they've got their free lunch. For that challenge, that's over for them. But you might have a longer incentive around maybe car sharing to work, and every single time you car share, you get a free cup of coffee. So you might want people to partake in this multiple times. So every single time that they confirmed a car share to work, then they got their free coffee. And then finally, you can enter details of how they can redeem their boost. So this will show for the employee within the app so they know what to do. So on the next screen, you can enter some terms and conditions if you have anything specific that you need your employees to know and understand about the challenge itself. And then finally, you can say when you would like the challenge to be live within the app. So in the Walk to Work in February challenge, we might want this to appear in the app in mid-January so that employees can join the challenge ahead of February to get ready for the challenge going live. Okay, so that's how you set up a challenge within the Mobility Ways dashboard. And now we'll take a look at what it looks like for the employee within the Mobility Ways app. So on the first screen on the left, we can see the call to action at the top there. So it says CommuteBoost and it says ask them to set up a challenge, join a challenge. So if they click on that, they'll come through to the second screen, which shows them a list of the available challenges that are there for them to join. Clicking on one of those, the employee is then taken to the screen where they can see all the details that you just set up when you were creating the challenge. So that would be, what they need to do, the challenge criteria, what the boost details are, the terms and conditions, etc. So if the employee likes to look at that challenge, what they can simply do is click join this challenge, and then they'll be taken to the next screen, which is the one on the right. And then this will just walk them through some bits they need to set up. The first thing we're going to do though is talk to them about privacy. So we're saying only journeys to this work location, this geofence work location, will count. So this is again where we're taking a privacy first approach with the way we're gathering their commute data. So we're not interested in any commuting information or journey information that isn't going to their work location. So that's the first thing they'll see. And then once they've acknowledged that, they'll be asked if they work, they'll be asked if they want to set up a commute window. So a commute window is a period of time that the commute will take place, or they can let us work that out automatically so that we can determine what their commute was from when they entered their workplace location. So if they choose the first option, this really reassures the employee that we're only looking at commuting data within that time window. So once they've set that up, they then go through to another screen where they can set up their permissions for this. So the first one is to set up, just say, hey, can we use location permissions? And then the second one, which is the third screen along, we ask for background location permissions. And this is so that passively in the background, we can be gathering information about their journeys. And again, we only look at the information that's ended at the geofence location. But this means it's very hands-free for the user. They set it up and they go. However, you may have an employee which doesn't want to do that, doesn't want to set the background permissions, and that's absolutely fine. If they don't want to do that, they can say, hey, maybe later, and they'll be taken to a screen where they can set a reminder so that they can start manually logging their commutes via a button within the app, which I'll show you in a moment. So once they've set up their reminder, they're taken to a final screen where they'll just have to set the permission so we understand what their physical activity. This just helps us to determine what the commuting mode was they took. Okay, so there's not too many screens there for the user to just go through to set up the logging. So once they've done that, it's them commuting to work. So the screen on the left, if they did choose to do the manual logging and not set the background permissions, then inside the app, they will simply have a little button there that says start logging. And if they click that, then the app will start logging their commute. And when they enter the geofence work location, then it will stop their commute. And that's the information that will be used. However, if they chose auto logging, then they don't need to click any buttons. It will simply say that the tile will simply say that, hey, your commutes will appear here once it's been logged. And all they need to do is just commute to work as normal. And then once they enter the geofence work location, we will work out what their commute was from that period. And obviously, if they've set a commute window as well, then we'll only be looking within inside the commute window too. So once they've logged a commute, that goes up to our certainty engine. And our certainty engine is a machine learning AI system, which learns from their own commutes, plus the wider set of commutes to understand the type of behavior that they've done to determine what type of commute mode it was. So for this to work, we're going to ask them to manually confirm their first 5 commutes. So it might be that I've walked to work, it will log my walk, it will send it up to the certainty engine, and then in the app it will say, hey, we've got a commute for you to confirm. So as a user, I will just click a button, say, okay, I want to confirm that, and then I'll be taken through to that last screen there, where I can see some details about the commute, and I can then confirm the mode. And then after the first 5, the certainty engine should start auto-confirming the commutes, because it should understand from my history, or the employee's history, plus the greater pool of data. One thing to note here is that when the employee is looking in the app to confirm the commute mode, they'll be able to see a little map of just the route they took. This is to help remind them of the commute they did. But you as employers cannot see any route data. So it's complete privacy first. This information is only available to the employee. As an employer, you cannot see where your employees have gone. You won't be able to see any routes. You will obviously understand the modes they took, because they'll be entering challenges and the date that the challenge took place. Sorry, the journey took place to be inside the challenge. But beyond that, you won't have any other information about the routes they took to work. Okay, so once they've confirmed challenges and they've confirmed enough to receive the reward, that will appear in the app for them. So on the left-hand screen, we can see challenges that the employee might be taking part in, and they can see a progress bar. So if it was that walk to work 10 times in February challenge, and I've walked to work, 6 times, the bar will go across a certain percentage of the way. And then once I've completed that, then I will get a push notification to say, hey, you received the boost. That will appear on my home screen. I'll also have a dedicated screen as well, where I can see all of the past boosts that I've earned, any boosts that I currently have. So I might have some boosts that I haven't redeemed yet. I've not gone down to the canteen, or I've not sent the code off to whoever I need to send it off to. But also below that, I'll see past boosts, where it could be that boost that I previously have redeemed, or maybe a boost which I didn't redeem in time and has expired. So that information's there, so it's nice and clear for the employee to see. So if I did want to redeem the boost, I would simply click on it, and then looking at the third screen here, I can see I've got a stranger's coffee. So I'd click redeem, and in this case, it's given us a code. So actually, this is probably more like something like merchandise. So I'd be given the code, which I could then send off to my challenge administrator. But if this was for a coffee to take to a point of sale in a canteen, that would be, rather than showing the code, it would simply be a little swipe that the person working the canteen point of sale could swipe to redeem the boost, to say that they've handed over the coffee. Okay, so that's the experience for the employee within the app. And one final thing to do with the Commute Boost area is that obviously, as yourselves, the employer, you can go back into the Mobility Ways dashboard and you can look at the challenge that you've created. You can see, you know, the number of participants, people have joined the challenge, how many people have completed the challenge, been given a boost, how many people have redeemed the boost. So this screen is an overview area, but you'll be able to click through and look at participants themselves to see the individuals and who have completed it as well. And then finally, I just want to show you the commute activity dashboard. So as I said before, it's a privacy first approach, so you cannot see any information about your employees or where Bob Smith went on his commute to work. You can't see anything that they've done, but what you can see is this very high level information about the commuting modes that they've taken. So looking at this chart here, we can see, you know, this company, people don't work the weekends, but we can see people driving, people walking, people cycling, etc. And we can see the modal shift over time as driving has gone down and more sustainable commuting methods have been taken. So this graph is showing us the number of employees using those modes per day, but we also have other charts which shows you the emissions related to those activities, and also the savings. So for example, if you've got a certain day where you have a chunk of people driving and then a chunk of people walking, we could look at, so the people walked, if they were to drive, well, how much CO2 was saved. So it gives you some really, really good information there. Okay, so that was a very quick run through of CommuteBoost and CommuteJournal. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. That was great to see all of that. I hope you all found that interesting. We've had quite a few questions come in, probably mostly for you, Rick. Let's be honest, you're the expert here. So let's go with okay. This is a question from Gina. Can you set up multiple commuting destinations if your organization is a multi-site entity? Do you want to do that one, Rick?
Absolutely can. So we can set up multiple geofences for your employees to enter. So once they enter the geofence, that's when we go, okay, this is a commute to your workplace, and we can absolutely enter multiple geofences for your site.
Great. Simple. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the organizations we work with are multi-site. So yeah, it would make sense that it works like that. So great to hear that it does. Okay. In motivating employees, is there a need to change challenges, incentives regularly? Do you want to answer that first, Rick? I've got an idea for that as well.
I can talk to that one as well. So with the challenge creator, I think as you saw in the video there, you can create challenges which are only a few weeks long, if you want to, and that way you can test and learn to see what works with the incentives. I think our suggestion would be to try a few different things to see what's going to stick and what is going to motivate people, and it could be at different times of the year as well. Different incentives are going to be working, and I think that's something probably Charlotte you can talk to as an account manager and how you'd work with the client on that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think I agree with you, Rick. I guess one of the benefits of the product, right, is that it enables organizations to be really agile in their approach with incentives and comms. So you can see quite quickly what's working, what's not, what's engaging people. But yeah, part of engagement is sort of keeping things fresh and new. So just changing itself, offering new things is going to be it's going to be good. But yeah, also seasonality. So for example, I know we're doing lots of sort of launches with surveys and new schemes in the new year, capitalizing on that sort of new year, new me piece. But seasonal changes. So sort of looking at walking and cycling to try and incentivize new walkers and cyclists. Is it going to be the best thing to do that in the winter? Probably not. So I think seasonality plays a big part in it, as well as the test and learn. So I think changing it up is good, and we can advise you on what we know has worked. Okay. How is this police monitored to prevent it being manipulated / foul play? Rick, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So partly what we're doing with the CommuteJournal is to allow the employee to have obviously the device with them, which can help log their commute and log it to work. So as part of that, we are understanding the route they've taken, and we can see some data around that. Now, obviously, you know, our certainty engine has a wide pool of other commuting data, so we can understand from the characteristics of their commute if it was a walk or a cycle or a drive, etc. So if someone has said, hey, no, I was driving, or actually they were walking, it's going to be evident from the data around their actual commute. So that's the strongest way we have to obviously prevent people from foul play and trying to rig the system. And obviously at the end of the day as well, there's a certain level of trust, I think, with these challenges. You know, you can enter some terms and conditions for the challenges. So if someone's taken part in that, I think obviously you can put some pieces in there around you know, being honest. I don't know how technically or legally you would write those, but I think the biggest piece for us, and it's the trust piece, trust as you as an employer with the system to understand that the certainty engine is predicting the right modes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's what we've built into the certainty engine, right? And we can see if someone's tried to override that as well, can't we? And
Yeah,
flag
absolutely. Yeah.
it to employers. So if there's been, so like with lift share, for example, the lift share for work scheme, which we're not talking about today, but we know that if someone authenticates a journey on site, we've got that geofence, so we can kind of alert you to that. So it's a similar alert system where we can see that there's been a consistent overriding of the system. So yeah, we have thought about that. Okay. The questions, there's some questions around car sharing as well, but we'll I think we can answer that one separately. Okay, another really good question around the incentives. So incentives, only things the organisation can offer directly, i.e. time off, coffee, food from internal canteen, or do you offer link ups with popular high street locations, Starbucks, Costa Boots, etc.? Rick,
So
do you want to take that one as well?
yeah, so with our initial launch of this product, it is just internal incentive to start off with. Yes, like things like something from your canteen, it could be, you know, time off or merchandise you have, something that you can deliver yourselves. But we are looking to build this out so that we can incorporate links to, you know, voucher schemes for Costa Boots, etc. So not in this initial iteration, but it will be in the pipeline and it will be coming along soon.
Yeah, it's something we're developing. So, but sort of the basic premise of you know, the way it would be redeemed with a high street retailer with a voucher would be a code. So, you know, and it's kind of an internal code at the moment. So, so yeah, that will be something that that we can do, which is fantastic. Okay. What can we do to engage our teams with this? What is the best way to roll it out? I can start on that one, which is a very good question. So it will really vary depending on the organization that you are. So we work with some organizations, you know, I've talked about NHS a lot. We work with the NHS a lot, which is why I've talked about it so much. You know, we know that those staff, most of those staff aren't in front of computers every day. So actually, it's really about getting in front of people in the places that you're going to be able to engage with them with physical comms, things like roadshows, because sending emails, doing social media, that's fantastic as part of the full campaign, but actually, you know, if you've not got people that are going to be in front of a computer much, it's not going to be relevant to them. So I would say it's about well, it's about the comms plan, but it's also about, I guess, what do your people want? What is going to be you know, the most juicy incentive for them? And again, that will vary by organization. And we know that, you know, if you've got there's different people in your organization as well. So that's why sort of putting a mix of incentives in is going to be important. But yeah, sorry, it's not really one answer to the question, but I guess what we the approach that I talked about around measure, reduce, report, it's really in understanding the measure, right? So supporting you to understand what is going to work and then that informing the plan. And that's the best way to do it. but there's no one approach for everybody. Okay, let's do one more question. Okay, let's do another data question, because there are quite a few. We've talked about privacy a lot, Rick, so thank you for going through that. It says, where is the data stored from the app? Is it GDPR compliant?
Yep. So, well, first of all, we have a very robust member terms, which the employees will agree to when they join the app, which covers where the data is stored, to make it very clear for them and how it's used. And for where it's stored, obviously the data is end-to-end encrypted from the user's device back to our servers, which is also encrypted at rest. We are with Microsoft, and we have a Microsoft Azure data center in the UK, and that's where our data is stored. And only authorized Mobility Ways developers have access to that data. And again, I say it's encrypted at that level. So no one can get to that data. And it's GDPR compliant in the sense that we're very clear on how we handle the data, and obviously who has access to it. So as employers, you have certain rights to certain levels of data, but the employee themselves have rights, which, if they want to remove their data at any point, it's absolutely fine, that can be done. And I think just one last thing to address as well, I talked about the certainty engine there and learning from that data. It's important to note that that data is anonymous. So when we're learning from the wider group of commutes and to understand modes, at that point, it's just anonymous data. We don't link the employee information to that at all.
Great, thank you, Rick. That was a really good overview. Obviously, when the time comes to working with one of you that's with your organisation that's on the webinar today with this product, we'll be going through that in more detail. Okay, so I think we'll wrap the questions and the session for there. But if you would like to find out more about CommuteBoost, CommuteJournal, or working with Mobility Ways in general, if you don't already, then please do get in touch. Our email address is team@mobilityways.com. And we've got loads of amazing resources as well on everything we do, including what we've talked about today on our website, which is mobilityways.com. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be sending you a recording of today's session soon. Take care, everybody.